Traveling with Denella Ri'chard is brought to you by Princess Cruises.
I'm Denella Ri'chard. I've made a career traveling the world. I've worked for some of the biggest names in travel, and now I've traded in my business suit for a swimsuit. Swimming with the sharks, swinging at the edge of the world, throwing back a few shots, or shall I say spirits, eating some of the best cuisine, and even making a few furry friends along the way. I invite you to come along with me and discover the world.
Songs of hope echoed in the distance, a symphony of resilience, as those in bondage strive to survive another day. The tunnel ahead seemed devoid of light, yet an unwavering faith persisted, a faith that each new dawn would inch us closer to the end of injustice, a beacon of freedom on the horizon. This is the essence of Juneteenth, a testament to the journey towards emancipation. Decades waited for this day. Yes, the day soldiers would share the news of breakthrough, the beginning of a transformation that would touch hearts, silence the sounds of shackles, and ignite the eternal hope of freedom. This day marked the end of a dark era, ushering in a new tomorrow full of liberty and equality, a beacon of hope and a testament to the indomitable human spirit. It was a day of jubilation, a celebration, a moment that forever altered the course of history. As we commemorate this day of liberation, let us remember the strength of those who fought for freedom. With courage in our hearts and unity in our steps, we stride towards a horizon of equality, ensuring the echoes of the past guide us to a promising future.
Welcome to the Traveling with Denella Ri'chard 1-hour television special, Juneteenth, Freedom Day, and beyond. Come along with me on this enlightening journey, stretching from its origins to its modern-day recognition. From the profound historical landmarks of Galveston, Texas, to the sandy shores of Tampa Bay, Florida, and the charming streets of Beaufort, South Carolina. Join me in honoring this significant holiday that represents a day of freedom. Discover some of the top destinations to explore while celebrating Juneteenth.
Hello, Miss Denella.
Hello, Sam.
Welcome to Galveston Island, the birthplace of Juneteenth. We have this wonderful carriage from Carriage House Rentals to take you around today on the Galveston Freedom Walk. We're so glad to have you here in Galveston, Texas.
All right, well, I love this car. I love the color, so let's go.
All right. Our first stop is the Middle Passage marker. This is the location where the enslaved people were transported here in Galveston. Over 80% of the enslaved traffic to Texas came through the Galveston port. So this marker was placed here several years ago to mark the Middle Passage connection to Galveston. Most of the time we think about the East Coast, but Galveston was a major slave port in the early 1800s to 1865. So we're arriving at the second stop on the Freedom Walk, which includes the Juneteenth marker on the southwest corner of 22nd and Strand, and the Juneteenth mural on the side of the old Galveston Square building.
Oh, it's a beautiful mural.
Yes, the mural helps to expand the narrative about the Union soldiers coming into Galveston in the harbor or port. Not only was Granger here with 2,000 soldiers, but he was here with more than 2,000 soldiers, many of them being United States colored troops. Newspaper reports from July of 1865 state that Galveston is occupied by Negro troops. So in the mural, we tried to make sure that we included them in the narrative. And then on the corner, we marked the location where Granger issued General Order Number 3. Now, Granger did not write General Order Number 3. It was written by Major Frederick Emory, but Granger was in charge and he gets credit. Emory was an abolitionist, and we believe that it is Emory that put the language, "This involves an absolute equality." So the bottom line, as the title of the mural is, absolute equality. We want absolute equality. Absolute equality is not about every human being having equal results. It's about every human being having an equal opportunity to grow and develop into the very best version of him or herself without hurdles or barriers hindering that growth. So we're still in pursuit of absolute equality.
But wait, there's more.
So we're here at Reedy Chapel, what was known as the Colored Church on Broadway in 1865. This is where the soldiers would have come and posted notice on the door to let the people of Galveston, the enslaved people specifically, know that they were now free. Reedy was formed in 1848. They actually didn't have a building until 1863. This is not the original structure, but this is the structure that was built after a fire that happened in 1885 and 1887. So there have been many celebrations from the courthouse square, walking to Reedy Chapel on June 19th every year to commemorate the January 1st, 1866 march from the courthouse square to Reedy for a celebration of freedom after the ratification of the 13th Amendment.
It's interesting you said the announcement was posted here at the church. So the church has always been the central hub to bring people together and for communication.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of the community and gathering location where individuals would have come and trusted the information that were being shared.
Go. That's the word, trusted, the information that was being shared.
So when you think about this, it's not just the paper that is evidence that freedom has finally arrived, but the appearance of those United States colored troops in uniform with weapons and the authority to use them. So all of that is part of the Juneteenth story. So the final stop on the Galveston Freedom Walk is the 1859 Ashton Villa home. This is the location where many Juneteenth celebrations have been held since 1980. In 1979, the late state representative Al Edwards was able to get House Bill 1016 passed, making Texas the first state to recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday. But 100 years before that, a state representative from Navasota in 1879 had tried to get Juneteenth as a state holiday, but because of the 1877 compromise and the climate at that time, he was unable to get the bill passed. So it took 100 years, but Representative Edwards was able to get it done. And we've been holding celebrations here in Galveston at this location ever since.
Today we honor a remarkable woman, Opal Lee. More than just an educator, counselor, and activist, she has been bestowed with the Presidential Medal of Freedom and referred to by many as the grandmother of Juneteenth. At the young age of 12, while being one of the few Black families in the neighborhood, her family home was targeted and destroyed by a group of rioters. The date of this incident, ingrained in her memory, ignited a fire within this native Texan. Her relentless efforts, dedication, endurance, and passion for equity made history after decades of campaigning when President Joe Biden signed the bill to recognize Juneteenth as a federal holiday in the United States.
Councilwoman Lewis, thank you so much for joining me down here on Market Street. It was important for me to come here to Galveston, to the birthplace of Juneteenth. You guys really own this.
You're so right. It is where it happened, right here on this island. As a matter of fact, I was born just a few blocks from here, and we always celebrated. Had parades, festivals, and we could never forget worship service. And you always had a Miss Juneteenth. For the last
Were you ever
30
Miss
years.
Juneteenth?
No. No, I was not. But it is always, beauty has always been celebrated here from the heart of people and from the heart of our youth here. We continue to have festivals or activities through the whole month of June, and we're just hoping that you or anyone all over this world can come back here and celebrate starting the month of June.
All right. And it's not just June. You guys have stuff kind of going on year-round as well, right?
Yeah. We'll have a different speaker.
Okay.
We've had the choir director from Prairie View A&M
All right,
University.
HBCU.
That's right. And I don't know whether you know, but Jesse McGuire Dent from right here in Galveston was the organizer of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Yes, Incorporated. So we have lots of firsts here on this island. We have families. We have the first millionaire in the state of Texas here.
Oh.
So T.D. Armstrong. So I'm glad that you're here, right here at Club 68. This is a gym within our community here, from comedy to Zydeco bands.
Ah, you know, I'm from Louisiana. What does Texas really know about Zydeco?
Oh, we know. We can do that little, whatever that little step is. We got it.
Yes.
We got it.
Okay, very good. But for, you know, to celebrate, I think, do you guys have like a calendar of events?
Yes, we do. I'm glad you asked that question. If you would go on Visit Galveston website, then you would click the tab for Juneteenth, and you will see all listed activities. And we also have an upcoming website for our Galveston United Juneteenth Alliance, and there will be a new website there where you can truly find all of our Juneteenth activities.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
It has been so nice catching up with you today.
Yes, and it has been a pleasure meeting you. I'm so glad you're here on this island, and I look for you to return.
Absolutely.
As we journey east, we'll explore the diverse landscapes and rich history of these unique American towns. One such town is Beaufort, South Carolina, where Black history is alive and well. Since the city's founding, generations toiled to raise successful families that would one day look back and reflect on progress. Acres of charming yet soul-churning land, surrounded by oaks, sassafras, and sycamore, seemingly ancient buildings, and untold history, seek to apprise of Freedom Day and beyond.
great things about Gullah and Geechee tours. So today I'm meeting up with Kitty Green. Hi, Kitty.
Hi, Denella.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to meet you, dear.
It's so wonderful to be here.
And we are so excited about you being here at the Praise House. This is the Coffin Point Praise House. This was one of the larger plantations on St. Helena's Island. And this man was an abolitionist. So there's a lot of history and import to this building here on the island. I don't know whether you know that much about the history in this area, but this became the most powerful setting in the slave community, because then you see a shift in who is the most powerful person within these plantations. Initially, that person was selected by the slavers, and then because of the constant transportation of Africans being brought into this region, then there is a shift, because there was always someone from the continent who had these gifts to a prophecy, gifts of healing and touch, and eventually that person just automatically shifted in to the most powerful place. Now, the size and the way this building is would have naturally been the size of a slave dwelling. Most of them were 10 by 10 with dirt floors. This was rebuilt later on.
So during slavery, a praise house would have been out in the middle of a cotton field, and this is where they would come to
This
praise
one
and
was, but most of them would have been in the slave road. It would have been the first house on the slave road. That's what made this abnormal, because the slave dwellings would be almost 2 miles back down this road, near where the plantation house is. This one, 2 miles in the woods with cotton. Okay, and of course it balanced itself out when we began to realize that this was part of the secret society, and therefore Africans were shifting back into some of their practices because of it. Yeah, very powerful setting.
It is. This is beautiful.
It really is, but it's modest to say the least. When we look at the wealth of the slavers of South Carolina, they controlled anywhere from 10 to 15 plantations. So this was more like a farmhouse. It's modest to say the least. Those grand manors you would find in Charleston and Beaufort. Right. Charleston is the oldest city in South Carolina, and Beaufort, believe it or not, is the second oldest. So those people owned anywhere from 10 to 15 plantations from North Carolina all the way down into Florida. Well, we're at the Brick Baptist Church, and this is the oldest Baptist church on the island. This church has never ceased to operate. It is on the National Historic Registry. It is also part of a reconstruction for the nation. This is what our President Obama did for us before he left office. So to hold on to traditions and to celebrate who we are and what we've done in America, and particularly this diaspora.
Marie, I was told that I had to come here to Penn Center, that I could not leave Beaufort without stopping here. So tell me, what exactly is Penn Center?
They'll tell you exactly right. Penn Center is a school, first school in America for emancipated slaves. Started in 1862 by 3 courageous women, Laura Town, Ellen Murray. 10 months later comes a black woman, Charlotte Fulton. Those 3 women were missionaries who came here for the sole purpose of educating the newly emancipated people on this island.
Right. So Marie, you describe yourself as a Gullah Geechee woman. What is a Gullah Geechee woman?
A Gullah Geechee woman is a woman who practiced their ancestors' folk ways, food ways, the way of life, the way we communicate, the way we live. It takes a village to raise a child, and we have that same concept today. We work together as a family to make sure we all have what we need to survive.
And lastly, where we are here at Penn Station right now, is this considered a historical landmark?
Penn Station is a National Historic Landmark District. That means every building you see, we cannot change any of the architectural design on this campus. So this campus spans 50 acres of land. And the buildings you see on this campus, all built by the students enrolled in this program. Currently, there are 23 buildings still standing on this campus. We're very proud of our site, Penn Center.
Well, thank you for having me today.
You're quite welcome.
We're back in Galveston. Over the years, Galveston has transformed itself into a vibrant city with a thriving education system and significant economic impact, thanks to the Port of Galveston. The city's rich history is preserved in the plethora of museums and historic mansions. The city's notable growth is a testament of equity guiding the future.
Hello.
Welcome to And Still We Rise Galveston Juneteenth Story. We are in the carriage house of Ashton Villa. The larger building is the Ashton Villa, was built in 1859.
Wow.
And what we have here is an interactive exhibit where people can tour it and read at their own pleasure. We have interactive screens that tell the story. The first room, this room covers the Civil War, as well as what was going on in Galveston at that time. The second room is more of what would happen on that day. And of course, the General Orders number 3 is also there, so you can read it. There are also interactive screens where you can hear ex-slaves tell their story. You have explanation of the orders, and the order is really kind of different than people think, because the last few sentences really gives a lot of do's and don'ts. So let's get started.
All right, I can't wait to hear the story of Juneteenth.
Okay. Here in the exhibit, we have interactive screens. We have a lot of written material. So if you go over here, on both of these screens, there are 2 screens. This is one in which you can read information. And in fact, if you want to know more, for instance, if you want that enlarged, you can touch it and it enlarges.
Oh, wow.
And then you can exit.
$50 reward.
Yes.
Runaway
Yes.
from the steamer.
Yep.
Governor Peace. So in June of 1865, General Granger came here for that sole purpose, to make the announcement,
To make the announcement.
right? That the slaves are now free.
Yeah, the slaves of Texas are now free. Yes, absolutely.
And how was that received? I mean, like, what was the energy like?
Well, for the enslaved, they were very happy, but somewhat confused. We were very confused but many of them knew only Galveston. So where were they going to go? They didn't have any money. They didn't have anything. And most of them could read or write. We found out later that a few could, and they probably came from another planner's destination. But they were confused. Many of them did leave. There were some who traveled. There were a group of them that traveled to Houston. In fact, in Houston, we have the Emancipation Park, and that area was built by the enslaved people who left from Galveston and other areas, there. But they were excited. There wasn't a big celebration. The big celebration didn't occur until 1866, the following year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Setting the stage for free the slaves in Texas, we have the orders number 3. And actually there were 5 orders. There were for Texas. One was, this is the most important one. There was one for the enslavers, there was one for the Confederate soldiers, and there were a couple of others. So there were actually 5. And the order, if you read it, you know, the first paragraph sounds great.
Mm-hmm. All slaves are free. Yes.
Yes. But if you read the last 3 sentences, the free men are advised to remain quietly at their personal homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts. They will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere.
So it sounds like there were restrictions.
There were restrictions.
Nestled in the northeastern Gulf Coast, Tampa, Florida is abounding in cultural diversity and everlasting appreciation of African American heritage. Tampa's Day of Remembrance is noteworthy, as Florida's own Emancipation Day is celebrated a month earlier than Galveston's. On May 20th, 1865, Union troops arrived in Tallahassee to announce the Emancipation Proclamation, marking the end of slavery in the state of Florida.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Tampa, Miss Denella.
Thank you, Ursula. I've heard so much about your history tour.
Oh, I'm excited to share with you African Americans of Tampa, because that's what we're experiencing here. You entered into Leaders Row in Perry Harvey Park.
All right, and we're just off of what, Central Avenue, right?
Yes, this is where Central Avenue was. As you can see, it's not what it used to be, but what we've done is pull together information that will help us commemorate and understand what was here. You're looking at a plat map of what Central Avenue used to be. The addresses, the businesses are all here.
And Central Avenue was more like the Harlem Renaissance or the Mecca of Black Tampa. Is that what?
Yes,
it really
in fact,
was?
it was called the Harlem of the South because people came in here for entertainment. There's a movie called Black Like Me that there's a scene where they're walking at night, and it's what Central Avenue was. That is a scene of Central Avenue. And it was the hot spot. It was a night spot. It was a business spot. It was the social area. It's where people did things.
On this journey, there are so many places we visit, especially, of course, here in the United States, and there are the stories of civil rights. What were some of the moments in civil rights history that Tampa experienced?
And civil rights, there are a couple of things that stand out. One, we had riots here too. That's one of the reasons you don't see a lot of buildings, because they were in fact burned down in the 1960s. And what came out of that is James A. Hammond was the community relations person, an African American, at the time. So he was charged with going into the community and calming it down. So he went in and got some of the young people that may have actually been doing some of the destructive things, put a white construction hat on them and called them the White Hats. And they went back into the community and calmed it down. It worked so well that they wrote about it in Time magazine, and they also replicated in places north, like Philadelphia and Detroit and places like that. So they're called the White Hats.
Okay, yes. That's new to me. So right now, you know, it's the month of June, and we're celebrating federal holiday, Juneteenth.
Yes.
Now, I'm told there's a little known history fact about Tampa Bay and quote unquote Juneteenth or Freedom Day.
Right. Freedom Day here in Tampa came on May 6th of that year, because the evening of May 5th, the cattle ranchers and business people of the day went on a cattle run. And the union was told about that. So they came in and took the city overnight between May 5th and May 6th. So May 6th was the first day of freedom. It was our Freedom Day here in Tampa.
Okay, so that was the first day that the slaves were informed that they were free.
And also, we're really excited about the fact that the Black Cavalry was a part of that invasion.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it'd be interesting to see the different dates of Freedom Day that kind of make up this story of Juneteenth, of when Black Americans in the different regions were informed of their freedom.
So now you're sounding like a historian, because I thought about that too. To go around the country and see what date, but you could see how they traveled and how the word got out.
Exactly.
And here in Florida, Tampa was May 6th, but Florida and at large was May 20th.
Okay, you see that? Look at that.
Yeah.
You see, it's important because for here in the United States, Juneteenth is still a relatively new federal holiday.
Yes.
So it's important that we educate and tell the story. And I continue to learn about the different dates that slaves throughout the states were informed of their freedom.
Yes.
And
a lot of African Americans are not aware, including myself. I turned in a resignation to a corporation that I'd been at for 20 years. And my boss said, "Oh, you missed it by 3 days." My Freedom Day from corporation was 3 days before Emancipation Day.
Before Juneteenth.
But that's
Get
right.
out of here.
And that's how I found out about it.
Yes, and see, for me, I found out about Juneteenth during the period I lived in Texas. That was a great, that was the Freedom Day celebration day. That was a great barbecue day for years. Texas has been celebrating Juneteenth. But now we all get a chance to celebrate Juneteenth as a federal holiday.
That's right.
The history doesn't stop here. We're headed back to Galveston.
Hello, Denella. Welcome to Galveston, Texas. I am Kanisha.
Thank you, Kanisha. I'm excited to be here.
We're so happy to have you here. So where we are right now is the historic Avenue L Missionary Baptist Church, founded in 1840. And so this is my home church. I was born and raised here, and I still do everything pretty much here at the church. I am the church clerk of the church. I have to give a little shout to my daughter that is the president of the youth department here. But this church is home, right? And it was also home to the slaves 4 months after emancipation. June 19th, 1865 is when the slaves found out here in Texas that they were free. Wow. So Avenue L was founded in 1840, the first black church in the state of Texas, the oldest black Baptist church in the state of Texas. And here at Avenue L is where C.L. Tamble decided to name Avenue L as a school. Back then it was the Freedom Bureau School, now today known, of course, as the historic Avenue L Missionary Baptist Church. But just 4 months shy after emancipation, Avenue L was made a school. 4 months shy.
Of Juneteenth, basically, right?
Yes, October the 31st. 1865, Avenue L was the school for the slaves. Not only was it where they could come here to worship, but they were able to come here to learn to read, write, and to do math.
Okay, or as they used to say, Kanisha, read, write, and arithmetic.
Read, write, and arithmetic. That is it. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So basically, giving them the fundamentals, right?
Yes.
So that they could survive.
That's right.
After they were given their freedom. Tell me, why is it important to you and so close to your heart?
It is close to my heart because this is where my parents introduced me. My mom is Baptist. She came here from Louisiana in 1961 to come to nursing school, and then she came and made her church home here at Avenue L. And so it's close in my heart because this is where it all began, not only for Juneteenth, but just to know that we had a piece of that history. This is also where it began for worshiping and for education. And just ironically, there are a lot of teachers that have come through Avenue L. We have had teachers, we've had principals, assistant principals, to come through Avenue L. Even today, this is our historical marker here that tells the brief history of Avenue L. This was done back in 1981. So it is a Texas Historical Commission. So whenever people come, they're able to look and see this historical marker.
Right, and so from Avenue L until students later went on to Central High School.
The students did go to Central High School, and what's one thing I want to point out, we also had brother and sister Ennis Williams. And Ennis and Maggie Williams were teachers, and Ennis Williams was a principal. But what makes it a great thing is that they also were the ones that kept things going at Old Central High School. When Old Central High School, the Culture Center was formed, they were the ones that kept those events going. That started with the Al Edwards banquets, different things that we have over there as well. So Ennis and Maggie Williams were members here at Avenue L, and then they were also connected to Old Central. And there's going to be a little bit more you're going to find out about Old Central later on.
Okay, yes, I'm told there's a great mind and historian, Mr. David O'Neill.
Absolutely. David O'Neill is a walking history book.
Okay, so I won't let you steal his thunder. I'm going to look forward to going over here and meeting with him next.
For sure. I hope you enjoy yourself.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and exposing this history here in Galveston, Texas.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Galveston Central High School, the first public high school for blacks in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And we are standing in the remnants of the original school.
So it's a historic site here.
Very historical, being the first public high school for blacks in the state of Texas.
And you know, when I think about one of the reasons we came here is because we had to come to the birthplace of Juneteenth. So Juneteenth, the official date, 1865, and this school was built in what date?
1885.
1885,
Right.
so 20 years later.
20 years later.
All right.
Yeah, and Juneteenth was such a force for this school because immediately after Juneteenth, 1866, we had already established schools here in Galveston for children.
Mm-hmm.
So you had about 200 and something at Reedy Chapel.
Okay.
And another almost 200 at Barrett School on the West End.
Okay.
So that tells quite a bit for Juneteenth and the vision for having education and religion here in Galveston, because stop and think about it. 1865, you're not supposed to be reading and writing, and the next year you've established schools.
But one of the other things I loved about the story here at Central High School is how every year, even before Juneteenth ever became a state holiday or a federal holiday, you guys were celebrating it here.
Still celebrating. And as kids came and went to school here and went other places, they took that spirit with them about Juneteenth. So there was just a growing, everyone was Central, in essence, Central was planting those good seeds everywhere about education, about the possibilities of doing great things, and in addition to hooking back to our own history about Juneteenth, being the original place for Juneteenth.
Okay. And you know, some people have told me, you know, when I told them that I was coming to meet with you, they're like, "You're going to meet with the Oracle."
They might have said the old guy.
No. You know,
Yeah.
so I have to ask you, when Juneteenth became a federal holiday, when President Biden signed the papers and it was official, how did you feel about that?
Well, I felt great about that. It was more or less, as things had grown, it was an unofficial national holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of the growth of seeing what was going on, and people started wanting to know more and more about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thinking that why was it 1865 that we knew about it? And that's a misnomer in a sense. People knew about the Emancipation Proclamation 1863. But you can't just say the war was coming from the east to the west. So you can't just say I'm free with your piece of paper. We had to wait for the people to get here with the guns.
You mean to tell me we couldn't send a text back then?
No.
Right. It took time. It took time for that message to come.
But Central has always been like if you have a smooth body of water and you throw that stone in the water and those concentric circles just go out and out, you never know where they're going to end up. So Central was that stone and Juneteenth was that stone. What more or less Central was the stone to continue telling people about Juneteenth.
I hope you've enjoyed this Juneteenth television special. If you're like me, you've probably learned something new and are inspired to visit the birthplace of Juneteenth, Galveston, Texas, as well as the other destinations, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Beaufort, South Carolina, which are great places to visit to immerse yourself in the history, the culture, the cuisine, and things to do. Well, it's time for me to go because I'm off to my next destination.
Travel the world with Denella Ri'chard. Travel the world with Denella Ri'chard.
The more I travel the world, the more I appreciate how our similarities far exceed our differences. We are all so much the same in the way we laugh, the way we cry, and the way we love. For each person I can inspire to travel the world and to experience a different culture and yet appreciate our kinship. We become one step closer so that we can elevate the beauty in discovering our shared humanity.
Travel